This isn't just a story, it's the kind you'll think about at 2 a.m. If you're ready for the truth they never saw coming, hit that subscribe button now. And if something hits home, drop a like and tell me your thoughts in the comments, because stories like this deserve to be heard. I thought my lowest moments were behind me at 27. Sitting in the oak-paneled den of my late grandfather's Dallas estate, my palms were sweaty and my hands clutched the leather armchair. The lawyer's tone cut into the silence. All his assets, totaling $215 million and including the mansion, are left to his granddaughter, Lila Bennett. The words hung in the air as if spoken by another woman, pride and fear tangled in my chest. Then the double doors opened. My guardians, Robert and Linda, the ones who left me 15 years ago, walked in, their smiles hard, predetermined. "We are her guardians," they announced, their words ringing out over the shocked room. Gasps and whispers spread through the assembled relatives. Before I could speak, Uncle Thomas and Aunt Eleanor rose, their faces unyielding. At that moment, I knew the battle for my grandfather's inheritance had only just begun. I wasn't always the heiress to a fortune. My childhood was a rusty trailer on the outskirts of Dallas, filled with the stench of stale whiskey and desperation. My father, Robert, a former mechanic, had hands that trembled more from gambling losses than from engine grease. My mother, Linda, had a diner uniform so tattered the logo was a ghost. Nights dissolved into madness, Dad stumbling in, eyes bloodshot, slamming doors until the trailer's thin walls shook. "Where's the money, Linda?" he'd roar. She'd be at the sink, dripping with her hands, tone level. "I brought what I could. Stop asking for miracles." "Miracles?" he'd spit, dumping unpaid bills on the table. I'd cower behind my bedroom door, 12 years old, hugging a pillow, shaking as glass broke or Mom's muffled cries followed. Always, silence fell, a sodden, defeated stillness. Mom loved me in her broken fashion, sliding leftover diner fare across the table. "Eat, Lila," she'd command, ribs showing beneath her blouse. I ate at work. She hadn't. Her fragile smile couldn't conceal it, but she pushed the fries toward me. One morning, the chill penetrated the trailer like knives. I awoke under a light blanket to unsettling quiet. No fights, no clinking cups. "Mom?" I whispered. No one replied. "Dad?" The living room was vacant, the kitchen stripped. Their bedroom door creaked open, bed not made, closet gutted, clothes scattered like they'd abandoned it. On the table, next to a chipped mug, lay a ripped note in Dad's handwriting. "Find your grandfather. He'll take care of you." Tears smeared the words as my hands trembled, the paper falling to the ground. I staggered out, wearing only socks, looking across the vacant lot. No truck, no life, just wind whistling through dead grass. They were gone. Why? What had I done to be left with no goodbye? That day, the girl who believed in family died, replaced by someone scared but resolute. If they wouldn't fight for me, I'd fight for myself. I skipped school, walking miles through January's bite, the note crumpled in my fist. At my friend Sophie's house, her dad, Hank, a truck driver with rough hands and kind eyes, read the note and didn't hesitate. "Get in, kid," he said, firing up his pickup. We rode in silence to Nichols Hills, where mansions stretched like castles, green lawns, iron gates, far removed from my trailer. At the Bennett mansion, white pillars and a red-tiled roof shone in the sun, cameras following us from the gates. My stomach roiled. "You sure, Lila?" Hank asked. I nodded, nerves shrieking to flee. Guards approached, stern, but Hank produced the note. Following tense radio conversation, the gates creaked open. The driveway stretched endlessly, the mansion growing more imposing. A man in a black suit, silver hair immaculate, waited at the door. "Miss Lila, I'm Raymond, Mr. Bennett's butler," he said, voice crisp. "He's expecting you." Expecting me? Had my parents called? Or had he known this day would come? Inside, marble floors gleamed under a chandelier, my reflection warped in their shine. Portraits of stern ancestors glared from gilded frames, beautiful, but cold. Raymond took me to a solid oak door, knocked once. "Enter," a low, commanding voice replied. There sat my grandfather, Edward Bennett, behind a great desk, gray suit immaculate, eyes like steel. He did not stand or smile, simply said, "Sit." I sat, legs shaking. "I know why you're here," he said, tone flat. "Your parents left you. You'll live here now. But I don't train up weaklings." He pushed a piece of paper across the desk, 5 handwritten principles. Be on time. Be self-sufficient. Never tell lies. Be responsible. Discipline your mind, body, soul. These are my golden principles, he told me, staring into my eyes. Live by them, or live to regret it. My father's note seared in my pocket, but these fresh principles were my destiny. My arena was defined. The first morning was like boot camp. At 5:30 a.m., Raymond flipped on my lights. Up, Miss Lila. Running shoes. I don't run, I muttered sleepily. Rule 5, train your body, he barked, not unceremoniously. Mr. Bennet doesn't have patience for slackness. I ran, legs on fire, ice stinging my lungs, sneakers slapping the gravel path surrounding the garden. Grandfather stood on the balcony, arms folded, face inscrutable. Every tumble was defeat. At breakfast, he put me through the drill again. What time is it? 7:15, I estimated. 7:16, he said. Rule 1. Punctuality. Master time, or it masters you. His words cut deeper than Dad's drunken screams. School provided no haven. At the private school, children in designer apparel whispered, the one who was left behind. Charity case. A girl snickered. Money can't buy her class. I longed to scream my truth but remained quiet, cheeks flushing. At home, I hid in my room, gaming on Raymond's old computer. But Grandfather called for me. Rule 3. Never lie. Did you do your homework? Yes, I replied, dry throat. He clicked on a Wi-Fi log. 2 hours playing games. You lied. He made me clean the garden, thorns scratching my hands until they bled. By twilight, I was grimy, angry, shaking. Raymond greeted me with a towel, his voice gentle. Don't despise him, Lila. He's testing whether you'll rise. I wept into the towel, salt burning on my lips. Months passed, and his rules carved resilience into me. Punishments built strength, lectures honed focus. He gave me what my parents never did, structure, standards. The abandoned girl faded, replaced by someone who'd never beg for love again. At 18, Grandfather summoned me. You'll work at Bennet Heritage Jewelers, he said, sliding a folder with a golden crest across his desk. A job. Rule 2. Financial independence. You're not a spoiled heir. Raymond took me to the Dallas headquarters, a glass skyscraper that shone like a jewel. Colleagues in crisp suits sized me up, the forgotten granddaughter. I began with menial tasks, filing, getting coffee, humiliating, but Raymond's words resounded. Rise, Lila. Months later, a crisis struck. A South African diamond supplier vowed to withdraw a multi-million-dollar contract, stating a better offer was on the table. Managers muttered panic. If this falls apart, so does the new collection. Grandfather called me to his study, the air heavy with the smell of old leather and polished oak. You're going tomorrow's negotiation, he stated, his voice a low growl in spite of his frailty. My heart chilled. Me? I'm not prepared. I'm just. His fist pounded the desk, shattering the crystal inkwell. Excuses are poison, Lila. You'll sit at that table. Fail, and you learn. Succeed, and you prove you belong. I nodded, horror forming in my stomach, his commands ringing in my ears like a drum in my head. The next morning, I arrived at the boardroom of Bennet Heritage Jewelers, my hands sweating. The Dallas skyline sparkled through floor-to-ceiling windows, an ironic contrast to the frigid faces seated around the mahogany table. Seated across from me was Johan van der Merwe, the South African supplier, his piercing eyes twinkling with amusement, a smirk playing at his lips. Ah, so the Bennet heir is a female, he drawled, his voice dripping with condescension. Interesting. Flame rose into my cheeks, but I composed myself, Grandfather's regulations grounding me. Bennet Heritage does not compete on gender, Mr. van der Merwe, I replied, voice steady. We compete on heritage, and ours is untouchable. He laughed, reclining, obviously amused. But during the negotiation, I held to the principles. Never lie. Own it. Condition your mind. Van der Merwe demanded a drastic price reduction, threatening to leave. I responded with a profit-sharing exclusivity agreement, linking his firm's destiny to ours with guaranteed stability. The room was silent, executives holding their breath. Van der Merwe's smirk erased itself, replaced by a reluctant nod. Clever girl, he said, signing the agreement. You've got steel. Relief flooded the room, and for the first time, I saw respect glimmer in the executive's eyes. That night, Grandfather did not praise me, but as I departed from his study, he grumbled, Perhaps there's more Bennet in you than I imagined. It wasn't warmth, but to me, it was a spark of pride, shining brighter than any chandelier in this cold manor. At 24, the past came crashing back. A gray afternoon, rain pounding the windows of the mansion, I was immersed in financial reports, the figures a lifeline to my hard-won control. Raymond materialized, his customary calm broken, eyes clamped with discomfort. "Miss Lila, visitors in the drawing room," he murmured. Visitors. My calendar was empty. I trailed him, every step on the marble floor seeming to reverberate like thunder, louder than the storm outside. The heavy doors of the drawing room towered over me, and as I swung them wide, my breath stilled. Standing there, Robert and Linda, my parents, who left me 15 years ago. Mom was pale, gray hair streaking her temples, eyes flicking like a caged animal. Dad, gaunt, fidgety, his fingers quivering as if still racing to catch lost wagers. "Lila," Mom whispered, advancing, a trembling smile on her face. "Look at you, darling." I stood still, the air thick with recollections of that vacant trailer, that ripped note. "Why are you here?" I demanded, voice icicle sharp, slicing through their insincere warmth. Dad's smile wavered, his eyes roving the room, crystal chandelier, velvet drapes, Persian rugs. "We wanted to talk, as a family," he replied, the word empty. "Family?" I sneered, bitter, the word bouncing off the walls. "Left me at 12 with a piece of paper. You lost your family when you left." Mom's eyes brimmed, her hands twisting. "We were in a bind, Lila. Bills, your father's illness. We had no other way." "Don't blame this on me," Dad barked, his eyes flashing at her before he turned to me. "Lila, I'm still ill. The bills are overwhelming us, but you," his eyes scanned the room, "you've done well. You can assist us." There it was, not love, not remorse, but a begging for money, their real motive exposed. "You came for this?" I said, shaking with rage, my anger coming in waves. "For money?" "Don't say it like that," Mom wept, advancing. "We're floundering. You're our daughter, who else can we go to?" My heart seared, torn between the little girl who had yearned for their arms and the woman who'd erected walls to stay alive. "I ate cold fries while you starved yourself to feed me," I told Mom, my gaze fixed on her, my voice low, raw. "Then you left me alone, no goodbye, just a note." "Do you know what that did? To wake up to nothing." Mom gasped, covering her mouth, crying harder. Dad moved forward, his voice rising. "Enough. You should be thankful we gave you life, raised you as long as we could." My knuckles tightened, nails digging into palms. "I owe you nothing," I spat, every word a knife. The air vibrated with quiet, interrupted only by the rain pounding against the windows. Raymond's calm presence waited behind me. "Make rule 4, own yourself," he said, tone steady but unyielding. I took a breath, meeting Dad's gaze. "I own myself, this business, grandfather's legacy. Not your bad debt, your illness, or your missteps." Dad's face contorted with anger. "Ungrateful. Robert!" Mom exclaimed, pulling on his arm, but he brushed her off. "Ungrateful," he bellowed. My voice trembled but remained firm. "You left me when I needed you most. Don't you dare think I'll repair your devastation." Mom's weeping became more urgent, begging, "Lila, please." But I was finished compromising. "Leave," I instructed, my voice icy as the storm outside, "before I lose the last vestige of pity I have." Dad's jaw clenched, eyes burning, but Mom pulled him out, their shapes disappearing into the rain. I stood within the ringing emptiness, chest panting, tears about to spill. Raymond's hand on my shoulder. "You did what was right, Miss Lila," he spoke softly. "Then why does it ache?" I whispered, voice cracking. "Family hurts cut deepest," he answered. "But you're stronger than their ache." I knew they'd come back, not begging but snarling, eager for the inheritance I'd vowed to defend. Weeks passed, and Raymond knocked, his calm tattered. "Miss Lila, your grandfather's ill." I burst down the hallway, heart thudding louder than my feet. In his bedroom, antiseptic and medicine clung thick in the air. Grandfather, Edward Bennett, sat hunched, face pale, hand grasping his chest. "Sit," he croaked, authority undiminished by frailty. "You should rest," I implored. "Rest is for the dead," he snapped, coughing, his body shuddering. Raymond held out water. He shook his head, his steel blue eyes boring into me. "I don't have long, Lila. Be prepared." "Don't talk like that," I stammered. "Quiet," he said, gently now. "Hear me out." He held out a leather folder, my hands trembling as I opened it. There were notarized documents, transfers, shares, guardianship files. One page brought me up short, a Child Protective Services file that indicated Robert and Linda Bennett had surrendered guardianship of Lila Bennett 15 years prior. My breath was caught, the words running together. They signed me away? Yes, grandfather replied, unwavering. They abandoned you. I claimed you. Never forget that. Tears pricked at the corners, but his words broke through. A legacy isn't just wealth, it's honor. Guard it at all costs. I nodded, holding on to the folder, determination setting in. His health deteriorated rapidly. He quit coming to the office, and I stood in at board meetings, meeting directors' questioning stares. Uncle Thomas and Aunt Eleanor hovered, smiles knife-sharp. During a meeting about funeral planning, Thomas leaned in, breath thick with whiskey. You think Edward's kingdom is yours, little girl? You don't understand this game. Eleanor's laugh was venomous. You'll break, Lila, and we'll be there to clean up the pieces. I pressed a forced smile, stomach churning. Underestimate me at your own risk. Their laughter sounded empty, but I glimpsed Eleanor's momentary apprehension. Late one evening, in grandfather's study alone, I gazed at his ticking desk clock, its beat a countdown. Above, his breath shortened, each one a reminder of time eroding. Raymond arrived, placing mint tea on the table, its aroma piercing my days. He's proud of you, he stated. He's never told me, I whispered, voice husky. Raymond's smile was weak. Not his style. But he's observed every move you've made. I held the tea, its warmth anchoring me, understanding the fight for his legacy was far from over. He wouldn't leave this in your hands if he didn't think you were prepared, Raymond said, his tone firm as I drank the mint tea, its heat unable to settle the heaviness in my chest. Ready? How could I be prepared to handle a $215 million empire and fend off parents and kin fighting for its spoils? The answer lay in grandfather's rules, no longer mere commands but the steel spine of who I'd become. Be punctual. Be financially independent. Never lie. Take responsibility. Train your mind, body, soul. They were my armor, forged through years of pain and discipline. The next morning, grandfather called me to his bedside, the room dim, heavy with the scent of antiseptic and fading life. His trembling hand extended an envelope, his name scrawled in fading ink. When I'm gone, open this, he rasped, voice thin but unyielding. It explains everything. Guard it with your life. I clutched it to my chest, nodding, my throat tight. His eyes softened, a rare flicker of warmth. You've proven yourself, Lila. Now protect what's ours. Hours later, he slipped into unconsciousness, monitors beeping a relentless countdown. I sat alongside him, fingers brushing the envelope's edges, the whirlwind of greed nipping at their heels. When Edward Bennett died, the vultures wouldn't circle, they'd dive-bomb. The will reading day was an ordeal dressed up in decorum. The lawyer's office shone, waxed mahogany table, leather-bound tomes on the walls, Dallas's skyline flashing through tinted panes. Across from him sat Bennett Heritage Jewelers board members, faces a blend of interest and exhaustion. On the other side, my adversaries, Robert and Linda, my parents, who'd left me 15 years ago, Uncle Thomas, whose eyes sparkled with ambition, Aunt Eleanor, whose smile was cutting as a razor. I occupied the head of the table, Raymond a silent support behind me. Mr. Lawrence, grandfather's attorney, put on his gold-rimmed glasses, his voice slicing the charged air. We are here to administer the last will and testament of Edward Bennett. The room fell silent, air heavy with expectation. All of his assets, business stocks, property, the family home, worth $215 million, are left to his granddaughter, Lila Bennett. The words exploded like a bomb. Mom gasped, grasping Dad's arm, her nails digging into his cuff. Dad's face turned bright red, veins throbbing at his temples. Thomas leaned forward, his smirk spilling into anger. Eleanor's painted smile curled, envy spiking in her eyes. This is preposterous. Dad thundered, pounding his hand on the table, making the crystal water jug shake. We're her legal guardians. That inheritance is ours. My gut lurched, but I glared back at him, ice filling my veins. Guardians. I repeated, voice frozen, cutting. You gave that up when you abandoned me at 12. Mom's voice cracked, tears streaming down her face. We were desperate, Lila. We intended to return. Save it, I bit out, my voice sharper than I had meant, the words ringing off the walls. You left me. Don't try to manipulate history to fit your own selfish desires. Thomas spoke up, his tone a menacing growl. If not them, then me. I'm the blood of Edward, heir of his son. I have more claim than some girl who's barely touched this empire. Eleanor's smile was deadly, her tone full of contempt. You're a puppet, Lila. Going to board meetings does not qualify you to manage a $215 million legacy. This company requires strength, not sentiment. My heart pounded, fury grasping my throat, but I remained firm, grandfather's rules holding me in place. I did not have time to react before Lawrence pulled out another folder, his tone even but unshakable. Robert and Linda Bennett relinquished guardianship of Lila Bennett 15 years ago through Child Protective Services. He pushed the paper across the table, its stark words silencing the room. You have no legal right to her or to her inheritance. Mom's lips quivered, face pale. Dad sank back, silent, his bluster deflated. Lawrence went on, unyielding. As for Thomas and Eleanor Bennett, they each receive $50,000, according to the will's no contest clause. If you contest this, you lose even that. Eleanor's mask shattered, voice a hiss. 50,000? An insult. Thomas bellowed, pounding the table once more. This is manipulation. Edward was senile. Careful, Lawrence warned, his voice as cold as ice. The trust is irrevocable unless fraud is established, and Edward's detailed records make that unlikely. The room hummed with anger, the air so thick you could choke on it. I got up, palms flat on the table, my voice firm but pointed. You all lost honor long before you lost me. Grandfather picked me not because I was handy, but because I succeeded while you failed. Dad's eyes flared with contempt. You think you are superior to us? No, I replied, voice as delicate as glass. I do know I am. Silence descended, thick and smothering. Mom's sobbing cut through the silence, raw and anguished. Dad spat profanities, fists bunched. Thomas leapt to his feet, chair scraping, and Eleanor spat venom too raw to be spoken. Raymond moved forward, his very presence a bulwark of strength. The matter is settled, he stated, voice steadfast. But I knew it wasn't. Their greed wouldn't end here, it would spread, waiting for my first mistake. The meeting disbanded in disarray. My parents stormed out, curses from Dad echoing down the corridor. Thomas slammed the door, walls shaking. Eleanor's angry glare vowed vengeance. I sat still, inhaling the quiet, Raymond's hand firm on my shoulder. They can rage all they wish, Miss Lila, he asserted. Edward's will and the law will be your allies. I nodded, but triumph was a boulder in my chest, not a crown. That evening, in Grandfather's study, the oak walls throbbed with his presence. The envelope he'd handed me rested in the drawer, its burden heavier than the empire itself. My hands shook as I opened the seal, to find a letter in his exacting, fading handwriting. Lila, if you can read this, I am gone. I did not pick you because you are my granddaughter. I picked you because you stood up. You survived what was meant to shatter you, walked on when others fell. My wealth is not your inheritance in truth, honor. Protect it with your life. Tears obscured the words, each one cutting into my heart. I read it again, until it was a promise. The morning after, I stood before employees of Bennett Heritage Jewelers in the glass-walled corporate headquarters, Dallas's skyline a glittering backdrop. Hundreds of eyes gazed on, skeptical, curious, some hopeful. I drew a breath, my voice ringing clear. We're not merely a jewelry firm. We're a legacy. Edward Bennett founded this empire on discipline, responsibility, honor. Those values reside in me, and I promise they'll lead us onward. The applause was reluctant but genuine, a spark of trust igniting. I wasn't merely carrying his legacy, I was becoming it. That night, the lights of the city twinkled like stars beneath the balcony of the mansion. The wind held the promise of rain, freshening the air. I followed the lines of the envelope's edges, now deep within the confines of my pocket, its words a bulwark against the wars to come. The girl who awoke in a frigid trailer, left behind and shaking, was not. In her stead stood Lila Bennett, fire-tested, bearing name, wealth, vow inscribed deeper than stone. I whispered into darkness, I won't disappoint you, grandfather. His creed, his trust, his heritage throbbed within me. Someplace, I knew he was watching, not in judgment, but pride. My parents, Thomas, Eleanor, they'd come back, greed keener than before. But I was prepared, not only to defend the empire, but to build upon it. Board meetings, contracts, global deals awaited, and I'd